Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game preview ahead of Everton's Premier League fixture tomorrow night, 7:30 kickoff against Leeds United away from home. A very difficult fixture for Everton to bounce back in, obviously after our poor 2-0 defeat to Newcastle United at Goodison Park at the weekend. Not a fantastic spectacle whatsoever, that one. Not one that we really enjoyed talking about yesterday, but we had to do the review nevertheless. I had a lot more fun talking about transfers and the Josh King rumours and everything. It was a really jam-packed deadline day last night and throughout the entire day practically, and it didn't finish until about 2 o'clock in the morning, so I'm absolutely shattered. But Everton do play Leeds United away from home tomorrow. Like I said, a very difficult game. Look, you know what you get with Leeds. They're a side that don't often change their style of play. If that's one thing you can praise or maybe even criticise Marco Bielsa for, it's that sometimes they come away from games with massive wins and sometimes they come away from games with embarrassing defeats, but no matter what, they don't change their style. It's always the same game plan and it works. And they're sitting 12th in the Premier League at the moment, 9 wins, 2 draws and 9 losses. They've had an okay season for them, and I suppose if you're a Leeds fan, you're probably happy at this moment. Like I said, it's been a little bit of an up and down season for everybody, but it's Leeds' first season back in the Premier League for quite some time. Obviously won the Championship last year, and Marco Bielsa's currently got them sitting 12th in the Premier League and a decent point at the beginning of February, considering everything that's going on this season. So like I said, they've had some big wins recently. Massive win against Leicester City away from home last time out, big 3-1 victory. Patrick Bamford having an absolutely fantastic game. Watched the highlights of that one a couple of days ago, and I think it's Bamford's second goal is just absolutely sublime. He fires it into the top corner. He assists the third one, which is a good counter-attack, which again is something that Everton may need to adopt coming into this game tomorrow. But like I said, you know what you're going to get with Leeds, and if we're not on our game, and if we do put in a performance like Saturdays where we're lackadaisical and we don't really have the energy and we don't really want to sort of get involved and we don't want to fight and we don't want to make it physical, then it could be an embarrassing result come tomorrow night. Hopefully not though. Like I said, it's a massive opportunity for Carlo Ancelotti's Everton side to bounce back. We need to bounce back because that on Saturday was not good enough whatsoever. We come up against the Leeds side who, a Newcastle side who ultimately hadn't won a game for a matter of weeks, struggling to score goals, and they absolutely played us off the park for large parts of that game and scored 2, quite comfortable goals as well. Not much pressure put under Callum Wilson in either situation, and we can't afford to allow strikers like Patrick Bamford, who are amongst some of the best in the league, to have that much time on the ball and have that much time in the box when corners are coming in. We simply have to be a lot better. We're going to talk about my predicted starting 11 a little bit later on in the stream, talk about Carlo Ancelotti's potential selection headache for this one as well. We do know so far from Carlo Ancelotti's pre-game press conference earlier on today that Jordan Pickford will be out of this game. Carlo confirmed that he has picked up a side injury, he said, so I'm not sure whether that's with his hip or the side of his stomach. I don't know, but he just said he'd picked up a side injury and he will not be available for tomorrow, but the hope is he'll be back for the game on Saturday against Manchester United. 2 massive games coming up for Everton. We know Fabian Delph returned to fitness and he'll be available for the squad tomorrow. Whether or not he'll be involved, we don't know, and Jean-Philippe Gbamin and Alan are still out injured. However, they are progressing, they're just not ready yet. And in regards to the new signing, Josh King, of course, who was announced last night at 1 a.m. after a whole load of negotiations and transfer talks, and will he join Fulham, and no, he's not joining Fulham, he's joining Everton. It was all announced last night at 1 o'clock that Josh King is an Everton player officially, coming in for a nominal fee, which we don't know what exactly that is yet. Rumours are it's between 4 to 6 million, something along those lines, and it is an initial 6-month contract, which is, I think, is ideal for all parties. We are going to talk about the Josh King news on a video within the next couple of days or so. We're going to sit down and talk about the January transfer market and assess it overall and how happy we are with the players that have left the club, and obviously Josh King who has come in. But we know Josh King won't be eligible for tomorrow's game, I believe. I believe Alan Meyer Myers put out a tweet yesterday that said anybody that signed after midday yesterday wouldn't be available for the midweek fixtures, but he will be available for the game on Saturday. So that's just due to eligibility, no fitness worries, fitness issues, etc. It's just that he didn't sign in time, I don't believe, to play tomorrow night. So Everton going into it with a fairly strong squad, of course, like I said, with the exception of Jordan Pickford picking up that knock. It's a squad that, again, is only really lacking Alan from being, best as it could be, really. I know Jean-Philippe Gbamin's still to come back, but we don't really know, what Jean-Philippe Gbamin can bring. He's only played a couple of games in an Everton shirt since he joined a couple of years ago. So we are just Alan and Jordan Pickford away from a full-strength squad. So we should be able to put out a really good side tomorrow, or at least a strong side. But whether we're going to be, good enough to go out and get anything out of the game, it just depends which Everton turns up, ultimately, doesn't it? Loads of people in the live comments. Massive thank you for everybody for getting involved. Really do appreciate it. We will get in the live comments in a second. If you are enjoying, don't forget to leave a like as well. If you could subscribe to the live stream, it would mean a massive amount to me. Really would appreciate that. If you could share it on social media, subscribe to the channel, would really appreciate that. Share it on social media as well. If you get involved, that would mean a great deal. Just nearly reported my own live stream by accident. That's a great start. Press the wrong button. We're going to share the scene. We're not going to report it. Please don't do that. But anyway, like I said, it's going to be a difficult game. Look, Everton, ultimately have to bounce back. We can't afford to put in a level of performance like we did on Saturday. It just wasn't good enough whatsoever. And ultimately, we're coming up against the Leeds side who are very good in attack, very strong. And like I said, Marco Bielsa doesn't hide behind the fact that he sets his Leeds side out game in, game out to perform in a very similar way, and that is to, come at teams with great attack and play. They play some fantastic attack and football. Leeds, we saw that in the reverse fixture at Goodison Park not so long ago when they come and took all 3 points off Everton at Goodison. But they are susceptible defensively as well. They're susceptible to being hit on the break, and they're susceptible to like I said, to defensive mistakes. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Carlo Ancelotti's game plan is for tomorrow, because obviously in a lot of the past performances and results, and certainly the positive ones, the game plan very much has been, Ben Godfrey at left back, Mason Allgate at right back, Meenan and Keane at centre back, and just sort of defend with a low block, and hit sides on the counter attack, and maybe that is the type of tactic that might work tomorrow, because Leeds are likely to have a lot of the ball. They are likely to come forward. They've got good attacking players. They've got players that are in free throw. Like I said, the performance against Leicester City was magnificent. When you look at how Leicester City played against Everton just a week ago, and look at how they turned up against Leeds, and Leeds absolutely dismantled them. And that's what you get with Leeds. You can get that type of Leeds performance where you think, bloomin' hell, if these can continue like that, these have got a really good chance of maybe even breaking into a European place. But then a week later or a couple of weeks later, they put in a performance which you look at and you think you could be in a relegation fight if you kept performing like that. So they're very yo-yo, and I think, like I said, that's down to the tactics of Marco Bielsa. Is that some weeks they'll look absolutely fantastic, and other weeks teams will just sniff them out and understand how to play against them, and they'll fall to a heavy defeat. And ultimately Everton have to make sure that tomorrow night the outcome is the latter, and it's that we figured out how to play against that Leeds style and that Leeds formation and those Leeds tactics, and we ultimately hit them and maybe even play them at their own game. But like I said, a lot of Everton's success in recent weeks and months has come from that low block defence and hitting sides on the counter-attack. We saw it at home against Chelsea at Goodison Park in December. We saw it against Arsenal at Goodison Park in December. We saw it against Leicester away from home in December as well. That strong defensive line, not letting anything through, defending fantastically for 90 minutes and then, hitting teams on the counter-attack. And grabbing a couple of goals on the breaks like that, against the run of play. Might end the game with 6% possession out of 100, but it doesn't matter because we've hit sides on the break and we've won the game of football. And again, like I said, this is a real selection headache for Carlo Ancelotti, because I don't know whether he's going to line up in that with that tactic of, okay, we'll go back, we'll revert back to the back line of Godfrey, Holgate, Meenan and Keane, and we'll attempt to sort of hit Leeds on the counter attack because we know they're susceptible to conceding goals, or whether he'll stick with Dean at left back, maybe even Coleman at right back, and try and sort of play play football basically alongside Leeds and not just defend for 90 minutes and actually go at them and try and actively attack. Like I said, it is worth noting that Josh King won't be available. He is ineligible for tomorrow's game. So for me, Everton need to do what's best to get a result, really. If you were to say to me now, Cam, Everton line up with this attacking style and a bit more of a progressive style of play, but we lose 3-1, or you say, Cam, Everton defend their arse off for 90 minutes, it's a horrible watch, it's dead hard to watch, but we win the game 1-0 from a scrappy goal in the first half, I'd 100% take the 1-0 win, and that's not just because it's a win, it's because obviously at the moment we need to bounce back, and if one thing Everton have been good at this season, and that is credit to Carlo Ancelotti, is bouncing back from defeats and bouncing back from poor performances. We've seen it after the West Ham game. We bounced back with a big win against Wolves, even though we had a really weakened squad in that game. We saw it, of course, after that bad run of form. We bounced back with a big win against Chelsea, again playing that sort of low block counter-attacking style of play. So this is a big game for Everton to bounce back in. We missed a chance on Saturday. We missed a massive opportunity. Every result pretty much went our way this weekend, and I know we played first, so you can't really say, oh, maybe the pressure of every result going our way had an effect on it, because we played before anybody else did. But ultimately, every result in the Premier League for sides in and around us went our way. Arsenal and Manchester United dropped points, Spurs dropped points, Southampton dropped points, West Ham dropped points, and we had a big chance to take a step up, a one up on those teams that are around us still with 2 games in hand, and we failed to do that. And you look at our opponents tomorrow. Leeds United turned up and put in a really good performance against a strong Leicester side. So Everton have to turn up and bounce back tomorrow. We do, and I've got this quiet confidence that we will do that as well. And like I said, we'll talk about my predicted starting 11 in a second. I've got this quiet confidence that we will bounce back, because it almost seems like at times this season, I said this during the Rotherham game and after the Rotherham game, that Everton maybe sort of dipped to the level of the opponents in which they're playing, and that's no disrespect to Rotherham or even Newcastle, because ultimately you can't really sit here and say, oh, Everton dipped to Newcastle's level, because Newcastle just stepped it up in that second half and were better than Everton and deserved the 3 points. But in that first half, it seemed like we weren't really up for the battle. They were kicking out at us, they were throwing in challenges, and we just didn't really seem like we wanted to fight. We weren't quick on the ball, we weren't quick on the counter attack, we weren't clinical going forward, we looked flat. And this is part and parcel, just slightly off topic, of the reason as to why I was really happy to see Josh King sign for Everton Football Club yesterday. I've seen a few people on Twitter who maybe aren't as ecstatic as myself or other Evertonians, but for me, we absolutely needed something fresh in this side. And look, I said it on the live stream yesterday. We done a deadline day live stream, and I sat here and I said, if Josh King's coming in for £15 million and we're going to offer him a 6-year contract and 120 grand a week, then I probably would sit here and say, you know what, that deal isn't great for the football club financially. It isn't great in terms of what happens in 12 months if Josh King, ultimately again is struggling and then we can't get rid of him. But the reality of the situation is Josh King is coming for a nominal fee, which is probably around £3 or £4 million, which again, you might say, oh yeah, but it's just a glorified loan that you're paying for. Lots of teams pay for loans now. He's coming for a nominal fee. He's coming on a contract, which means if he doesn't impress, he can go in the summer. If he does impress, he can continue on and he can, hopefully sign a new deal. And a couple of key factors. One of them is that Josh King is going to be playing for a contract now, because even though he's contracted to the football club and he's not alone, it's not a loan deal, he still is going to understand, right, okay, I'm playing under Carlo Ancelotti, I'm playing next to James Rodriguez, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Luca Dean, Richarlison. This is the club I want to be at for the long-term future. This club has said to me, right, okay, we'll give you an initial 6 months and we'll see how you do. So I need to play. We know how it happens. We know how it works with loan players. We've seen it number of times over the years at Everton Football Club, where we bring a player in on loan, they play fantastically well for that rest of that season, and then we go and sign them permanently and they're not as great. And I honestly believe that's because when players come in on loan, they know that they're playing for a contract, they know that they're playing for the future, they're playing their heart out week in, week out, and hopefully that's the effect that this deal has on Josh King. Secondly, on the Josh King situation, is he brings in something different, a bit of dynamism, a bit of directness going forward, pace, energy, fight, firepower up top. We've looked so flat recently, and I've been very complimentary of Dominic Calvert-Lewin and James Rodriguez and Richarlison this season, and I think they are absolutely fantastic footballers, and I just think that, certainly in Dom's case and Richarlison's case, I just think that they're on a little bit of a bad run of form at the moment, and they will get out of that bad run of form, and we will start to see the Dominic Calvert-Lewin that we've come to know and love from the start of the season, who's scoring goals week in, week out. We will start to see Richarlison, who's banging in goals left, right right and centre again. But at the moment, we just look so flat going forward. We look so void of ideas. We don't really look interested, and we just look like we've been caught out. And ultimately, bringing in somebody like a Josh King will allow Carlo Ancelotti to make those changes so sides don't know what Everton are going to do. So if it's 60, 70 minutes in and Dominic Calvert-Lewin isn't having a great day of it, and he's struggling a little bit, or Richarlison's struggling a little bit, you bring Josh King off the bench, and Josh King brings that firepower, he brings that directness, he runs at players, he makes defenders scared. This is a 29-year-old experienced Premier League striker, by the way, who scored nearly 50 Premier League goals. I know he hasn't scored this season, and he's had injury issues, and there's worries around that, etc, etc, but he's not like he's a no-mark who's only scored, 4 or 5 Premier League goals in 6 years at Bournemouth, this, that and the other. He scored nearly 50 Premier League goals. He absolutely dismantled Everton on the last game of the season last season, and I remember sitting here doing an instant match reaction and talking about how Josh King had just had us for toast left, right and centre, and that was after we'd been linked heavily with him last January for 15-20 million pounds, and he wanted ridiculous wages. So I actually think this deal is fantastic for the football club, and I think Josh King offers a lot more than maybe some people think he does. There's no guarantee, of course, and that's why it's a 6-month contract and it's on a long-term contract, but I do think he comes in and he gives us a little bit of dynamism, and he gives us something different, because honestly I'm bored. I'm absolutely bored of seeing the same thing week in, week out. Even when we play well, even when we win, we're not scoring like we were at the start of the season. We're not getting involved as much as we were. Dom's struggling a little bit. Richarlison's had a hard couple of weeks or so. So I'm just so happy to be bringing another attacker in who can add something different to this side and who can make us less predictable, because ultimately at the start of the season, teams come up against Everton and they didn't know what to expect from Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because he'd had a decent end to last season, and he played well last season, but they didn't think to expect this striker who's going to come on and score 6, 7, 8 goals in the opening few games of the season. They didn't really know how to deal with Richarlison. Now as the season's gone on, I feel like teams have sort of gone, right, put 2 men on Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's going to come out for the ball naturally because that's what he does. When he brings it down, make sure that whoever he's passing it off to is marked, and it just seems like we've been found out a little bit, and bringing Josh King in will allow that something different that teams won't be able to prepare for. Anyway, back on topic. Like I said, Josh King's ineligible tomorrow, so it doesn't really make much difference. And again, that's all the more reason as to that we're after going to try a little bit harder to get something out of this game. One thing I would take from this, and somebody mentioned it in the comment section down below, we will get into the comments in a second. By the way, a massive thank you to everybody for getting involved. I really, really do appreciate it. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe as well to the channel. Share this live stream. Let's get as many people involved as possible. But one thing I do want to say is Leeds United have, very similar to Everton really, this season have probably been a little bit better away from home than they have at home, and I think some Leeds United fans would admit that, and I'll happily admit that as an Evertonian. Again, another big reason as to why I'm more confident going into tomorrow is because we're not at Goodison Park, because recently at Goodison we just haven't looked as good and as sharp as we are away from home, and I don't know whether that's because when we're at Goodison we're a little bit more tame, or we're just a little bit less we have a little bit less firepower, or we don't go for the throat as much, whereas when we're away we seem to be a little bit backs against the wall and underdog sort of style, so we perform a little bit better, we step it up, whereas at Goodison we don't really step it up much. I don't know, but Leeds are very similar in that, is that their away form has been a lot better than their home form this season, and some of their big heavy defeats this season have come at Ellen Road. Having said that, like I said, they've also got a couple of big wins at home as well, and again, this is a Leeds side that ultimately you don't really know what you're going to get. It's weird, this Leeds side, because you know what you're going to get in terms of the style and the effectiveness in which they play. They come forward as a unit, they attack as a unit, they've got some very, very good attacking players, they create a lot of opportunities, but they do leave themselves open to, defensively. They leave themselves susceptible to making mistakes and to counter-attacks as well. So you know what you're going to get on one hand, but on another hand, you don't know what you're going to get, because one week Leeds can go out and beat Crystal Palace 5 or 6-0, the next week they can turn up and get absolutely tonked by, Leicester. They got tonked by Leicester at Ellen Road, I believe, earlier on in the season, turn up away from home and put in a really good performance. So one thing that I suppose we have to look at is their recent form, and ultimately, big 3-1 victory against Leicester City, like we mentioned at the weekend. That was massive. They beat Newcastle prior to that away from home with a 2-1 win, of course. Again, the two sides that Everton have recently played. They lost to Brighton 1-0 at home, which again, if that sums up Leeds United's season, it's a big win against Leicester City, and a loss to Brighton at home. They lost to Crawley, of course, in the FA Cup, which was away from home. They lost to Spurs away 3-0, and they beat West Brom 5-0 away from home. So a couple of big wins there, but like I said, a couple of defeats that you wouldn't really have expected at the start of the season, and I suppose that's where the conversation about Marco Bielsa comes into play. And I don't want to sit here and have that conversation because I'm not a Leeds fan, but that conversation very much is, should he be applauded for basically saying we don't change our style, this is how it is, it's exciting, and one week we might get beat 8-0, the next week we might win 8-0, or does he get sort of, do people ask questions as to say, well, it's a results-based business and you'd have to change in order to get results. Carlo Ancelotti's changed his Everton side a number of times, and will he change it again tomorrow? We'll have to wait and see. We will get into my predicted starting 11. I want to get into the comments first because I know there's a load of people. Massive thanks to everybody for watching live. Lewis says score prediction. I'll give it at the end of the video, mate. Remind me at the end of the live stream. I always forget to give a score prediction, but remind me at the end of the live stream and I will give it. Abigail says, hi Cam, I have rated Josh for a long time. Glad we have him. Yeah, so have I. I've always thought he was a decent player, to be honest with you. I've always thought he was a decent option, just not at 20 odd million pounds and £120,000 a week on a 5-year deal. But for the deal that we seem to have brought him in, I've got no issues with it whatsoever. Near Death Experience says, if Everton don't beat Leeds, then I'll go back to being a Chelsea fan. Fun being with you lot, but if Everton do beat Leeds, then I'll stay an Everton fan. Whammy says, nah, it'll be fine. We have Super Josh. Now, Everton now says, hi Cam, thanks for tuning in last night, mate. Let's go for the 3 points. No worries, mate, no worries. Don't forget to check out Everton now. If you haven't already, drop them a subscribe, Alfie and the lads. Yeah, we have to bounce back tomorrow, and I am confident that we can get the 3 points because, again, this Everton side surprises you, doesn't it? The games that you look at and you think, you know what, we should win that comfortably, we don't, and the games that you look at and you're a bit fearful for, we usually do well in. There's no guarantee, of course, but I am confident going into tomorrow's game, quietly confident. Whammy says, hey everybody, Cam lad, how's everyone doing? I'm not too bad, how you doing, mate? Botcher says, hey Cam, how you doing? I'm fine, thank you, mate. Everton Butchers, if Jess wants to be a journalist, I can help her out. I think she was just having a little laugh on Twitter, mate. To be fair, Jess absolutely smashed it last night. She kept us up to date with everything. Me missus, if you don't know Jess, she's me missus. She was spot on with the transfer news. I was trying to keep on top of one transfer, and she was sending me messages about other transfers, keeping me in the loop. So she absolutely smashed it last night. Go and drop her Instagram a follow, by the way. It's in the description. Manuel says, bad feeling for tomorrow's game. Leeds are on a roll. They are on a little decent run of form, to be fair. Again, since that loss against Brighton, beat Newcastle away from home, beat Leicester away from home, but like I said, they genuinely are better away from home than they are at home. They lost to Brighton at home. Everton, very similarly, generally better than we are, better away from home than we are at home. Whammy says, what do you do, Botchers? Mama says, King not allowed still, maybe against United. Wim says it was Kabam, and Eugene says Robin Olsen is playing in goal against Leeds. Well, it won't be Jordan Pickford. Carlo didn't confirm it would be Robin Olsen, but with Jonas Leisel leaving the football club, I assume it's Robin Olsen. Hernandez says, hey Cam, when have you been able to sleep with all the videos? Hope all is well. Feel like we must play Holgate and Godfrey to stay tight at the back. You know what, mate? I didn't get a lot of sleep last night and I am quite tired, so apologies if you can notice that. But, again, I agree. We're going to talk about my predicted starting 11 in a second as well. Luke says Leeds have a very bad home record this season. We have a good away record. So, Eugene says prediction for the Leeds game. I'll give it in a second. Lewis says, do you think Carlo will put any youngsters on the bench? He might have to, mate. He might have to with, the likes of the likes of Tosin and Gordon, who have gone out on loan. John Joe Kenny's gone out on loan. So we may see potentially a Tyler on Yango, potentially a Thierry Smalls on the bench tomorrow. Whammy says, is Alan back? Don't know about Coleman until we have our midfield back, or we just get overrun. Alan isn't back tomorrow, hopefully be back by United. And Luke says there's not many youngsters left, they're all on loan. But that's a good point as well. And Adam says tomorrow we just need to sit back and get a scrappy goal, which we're good at. I don't think Leeds will be able to break us down, but we're going to talk about that. Carlo spoke about home form. Interesting that a couple of people should mention it in the comments. He was asked about Everton's home form specifically, but I saw it sort of does tie into the same question with Leeds, and he basically said, it's no surprise that, the fact that we haven't been able to have fans in stadiums for an awful lot of games is having an effect on home form for sides. He said he's got no doubt that if fans were in attendance, that home form would be a lot better. He said there's no secret that, you know, our couple of big wins recently were against Chelsea and Arsenal, and we had 2,000 fans present at Goodison Park for those wins. So he's a big advocate, Carlo Ancelotti, for obviously fans returning to stadiums, as you know most managers are. I think all managers are, but he's quite vocal in saying that he believes that the reason the Premier League is a little bit up in the air at the moment, with teams losing games at home they wouldn't usually lose to, and winning games away maybe wouldn't usually win, is because of the lack of fans in the stadium. And I think maybe that applies for Leeds United as well as it does for Everton. And like I said, that's what's given me that little bit of quiet confidence, is that we are genuinely better at home this season, or certainly have been recently. And again, you know, you look at our home performances. Lost to Newcastle, really, really poor performance. Lost to West Ham on New Year's Day, again, really struggled. Drew with Leicester, but we struggled with it. You look at our away performances, beat Leicester City, beat Wolves. You know, again, obviously we beat Chelsea and Arsenal at home, but fans returned in those games. So again, I agree with Carlo Ancelotti, and I understand that, and hopefully that's got some sort of say in Everton's performance and level of performance tomorrow. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into my predicted starting 11 ahead of this game. We will get back to the live comments a little bit later on, so massive thank you. Continue dropping your comments, really do appreciate it. If you're watching as a YouTube video, leave your comments in the comment section and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. Please do leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Let's get straight into it then. In goal, I'm going for Robin Olsen. Again, like I said, Carlo Ancelotti confirmed earlier on today in his pre-game press conference that Jordan Pickford has picked up a knock, a side injury, he said. So I don't know what it is. Maybe his hip, maybe the side of his stomach, maybe the side of his leg. I don't know. But he has picked up a side injury and he will not be available for tomorrow's game. The hope is that he'll be back for the game against Manchester United. But of course, the assumption is that Robin Olsen will start in goal, and I've got no big issue with that. Robin Olsen has put in a couple of decent performances since he's, been asked to go in goal. He looks like a very assured goalkeeper, big, tall, calm, doesn't make any silly mistakes, solid in goal. He hasn't really massively been tested, so it'd be interesting to see him come up against the Leeds side, who do come forward and do create chances, and who have got a striker in Patrick Bamford who's been very clinical this season. It'll be very interesting to see how Robin Olsen can cope with that Leeds United side, who are likely to throw chances at us. But ultimately, like I said, he hasn't really put a foot wrong since he's been at Everton, and Jordan's out, so there's not really any conversation here. Robin Olsen in goal. Back line then, this is where the title of the live stream comes into it. Carlo Ancelotti's selection headache. I've gone for a little bit of a different side today, and you might sit there and you might think no, you might think yeah, you might think you're talking out your bottom. Who knows? But backline, I've gone for a reverted backline of Ben Godfrey at left back, Yerry Mina and Michael Keane at centre back, and Mason Holgate at right back. Now, I'm going to talk about Lucas Digne in a second before anybody thinks I've taken Lucas Digne out, and I don't want Lucas Digne to play. Said it in the review to the Newcastle game yesterday. Lucas Digne for me is our best left back. Obviously, he's the best left back in the country for me, but this change has something to do with the forward line as well, which we'll talk about in a second. The back line, of course, that has played in a lot of games of football for Everton so far this season. Been very, very good so far this season. Ben Godfrey at left back's been absolutely solid. He's been fantastic. Mason Holgate at right back, I think, has been a better option than Seamus Coleman, to be honest with you. And I love Seamus Coleman, but I just think Mason is a little bit more confident and a little bit more comfortable, certainly in recent weeks. And then Yerry Mina and Michael Keane at centre-half, who have both been very, very good, very, very solid so far this season. The Ben Godfrey situation, I said it on yesterday's video. I am not a massive advocate for Lucas Digne not playing left back. Lucas Digne's a natural left back. For me, he's the best left back in the country, and I do think it's going to get to a point where we have to revert back to Lucas Digne playing left back week in, week out. But if Newcastle showed anything, it wasn't specifically Lucas Digne, because I don't just want to go in on him because he did have a poor game, and I don't want to sit here and just absolutely go in on him left, right and centre for one poor game of football, because everybody's allowed a poor game, and ultimately all players do. But if one thing was absolutely evidently clear on Saturday, is that we lacked Ben Godfrey. Not specifically at left back, not specifically because Lucas Digne had a poor game, but we just lacked Ben Godfrey's comfortable, comfortableness. Don't even know if that's a word. We lacked how comfortable Ben Godfrey is on the ball. We lacked how confident he is on the ball. We lacked how assured that he is. We lacked his leadership. We lacked his acceleration. We lacked that confidence that he gives to everybody else around him, the rest of the defenders, the midfield, who are ultimately turning around and looking at Ben Godfrey and thinking, yeah, you know, I can be confident with him with the ball at his feet. I can be confident with him defending. And I think that's something that really, really shouldn't be underestimated for this Everton side. And that is Carlo Ancelotti's biggest headache for me going into this game and, you know, games in the next few weeks or so, is that you've got one of the best left-backs in world football there, and for me the best left-back in the country, who is fit and back and ready again, and probably does need a couple of more games to get back to that level of fitness where he, you know, we can comfortably say he's competing at the high level, at the highest level week in, week out. But you've also got a lad there who's been playing left-back, who is absolutely exceptional and needs to play in this Everton team. Now, again, I'm not, you know, completely rubbishing the idea of Ben Godfrey playing in midfield or at right back or even centre half in the next coming weeks or so, but what I am saying is, for me, Ben Godfrey absolutely has to play in this Everton side. He brings so much quality to the defence. He's comfortable with the ball, he gets forward, he's decent in the air, his positioning is good, his acceleration is fantastic. If you've got somebody going one-on-one with the goalkeeper, or you maybe get a break for the side, Ben Godfrey's usually the first defender there to make up the ground and to bring the ball back. And I think in a game like tomorrow, coming up against the Leeds side who have got a lot of quality going forward and will have a lot of possession in games of football and do break forward quickly, I think somebody like a Ben Godfrey is absolutely essential. Somebody with that defensive mindset, those defensive qualities, and ultimately a player like Ben Godfrey who can turn on the acceleration, he can turn on the turbos when need to. That lad plays like he's playing in second gear, and then, you know, you'll see a player absolutely bust a bollock to dive past on one of the wings, and Ben Godfrey will just like slip it into third gear and just, you know, have a little jog, and he'll be, you know, catch up to the man and absolutely outrun him for pace. So for me, he's absolutely essential to be in this Everton side, especially against the Leeds side, who we saw last time out against Leicester, scored, you know, a couple of goals from counter-attacking positions where they hit Leicester on the break. Patrick Bamford won, which was a fantastic break, and the third goal, which Patrick Bamford was involved in it, and he played it across, and I can't remember, I think it might be Jack Harrison who scored, who's also had a decent season so far, in my opinion, as well. So for me, look, I think Luca Dean needs to be in this side, and we'll talk about that in a second, but Ben Godfrey absolutely has to be in this Everton defence, whether it's at left back, whether it's at right back, whether it's at centre back, whether it's at central midfield, whether it's up front, whether it's at left mid. I don't really care, but he has to be in this team. He brings so much quality, he brings so much composure, he brings so much athleticism, he brings leadership, he's shouting at players, he's directing players, he's telling players where they need to be. He absolutely needs to be in this Everton team. And what we saw last weekend without Ben Godfrey in this Everton team is we just struggled, certainly in that second half when it come to crunch time and we really, really had to, you know, settle down and defend. We struggled to do that. And I'm not saying that was completely because Ben Godfrey wasn't in the side, because, you know, there was no guarantee that Ben Godfrey would have been in there and would have won the game. But what I'm saying is that I just think he's so important defensively to this Everton side, and I think for me he absolutely has to play tomorrow. Now, whether that's for Luca Dean, and maybe Luca Dean is sacrificed and pushed further forward, I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second, but Ben absolutely has to play. Adelina says, hi there, I merely wish to say that I really enjoy your content. Thank you very much. Well, if you enjoy, why not subscribe? It only takes a second. 81 people watching. Big thank you to everybody for watching. If you are watching, please do hit that like button. 25 likes, if we could get them up, it would mean a great deal to me. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share the stream as well to get as many people involved as possible. Paz says Dean will be left wing. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. Luke says, yeah, we need a new young right back like Max Adams or Walker Peters. Paz says, why do we think Holgate and Godfrey didn't play Saturday? We expected to win and they were rested for a tougher away game. Potentially, mate, potentially. Ham Eggs Rodriguez says, I agree with Godfrey, but not Holgate. I agree with Godfrey, but for Holgate, not Dean. Fair enough. Wimmy says that a lot of games rotation is necessary. It absolutely is, Wimmy. Ananda says Godfrey does really well drawing fouls when he's going forward. His pace and physicality hasn't been matched recently. I couldn't agree more, mate. And Wimmy says, agree, Phil. Sorry to say, but Coleman is finished for us. Manuel says Godfrey will get chased by big clubs. Surely he's an incredible talent. He might get chased, but hopefully he turns around and says, you know what, fellas, see you later. I'm not interested. But for me, like I said, Ben Godfrey absolutely has to be in this Everton Everton side tomorrow. The pace, the passion, the fire, the athleticism, the ability on the ball, the defensive abilities in the air. And also, he's not afraid to throw a slide challenge in. If you're running and there's even a sniff, which there's never because he gets the better of everybody, but there's even a sniff that you're going to get the better of them, he'll just throw a tackle in and you'll just get absolutely embarrassed. So, for me, Ben absolutely has to be in this Everton team, and I think he'll be at left back. 2 centre-backs, Yerry Mina and Michael Keane again. I think we're part and parcel of a back line and ultimately a group of Everton players who were at fault for Callum Wilson's first goal on Saturday. I'm not going to go too far in on Yerry Mina and Michael Keane because I think they've been absolutely excellent recently. I think they've been fantastic. The pair of them have been so solid, both defensively in the air, bringing the ball forward as well. Michael Keane's looked a lot more confident with the ball at his feet. Again, like I said, the game against Leicester where we really, really were struggling in that second half. We were pinned down. Leicester were getting ours. They were attacking constantly. Both Yerry Mina and Michael Keane through their bodies on the line, defended, absolutely fantastically in that second half to see the game out and ultimately to win Everton a point. So again, they keep their place for me, both at centre-back. Again, weren't awful last Saturday, probably were to blame, or partly to blame for the goal that we conceded, but they were absolutely dreadful and have been fantastic recently, absolutely brilliant. Like I said, I can't really put a fault on either Michael Keane or Yerry Mina recently. They've been very, very good. And then I've gone with Mason Holgate at right back. I really, really love Seamus Coleman. I do. He's an Everton legend and he's an idol and he's brilliant and I love him and he's an absolutely unbelievable man as well. He's a brilliant human being and he's exactly the type of person and human that we need as a role model for our football club. But I just don't know whether he's up to scratch as to playing Premier League football now. Again, he wasn't awful last weekend, but he really, really didn't do himself any favours, did he? He didn't make it hard for Newcastle United. Let's be honest, he did create a lot of chances. They did break down the wings. They didn't really struggle to get balls into the box. And I just think, like I said, it's more of that back line as a whole of Godfrey, Mina, Keane and Holgate. I think when we've played with that back line as a whole, I think we've been an awful lot better and a lot more solid, certainly recently. And Carlo's got a decision to make with Luca Dean on the left-hand side, and he's equally got a decision to make with Ben Godfrey on the right, Mason Holgate on the right-hand side. But I just think for this game, add that to the fact that Seamus played, the 90 on Saturday, and obviously fitness-wise and stamina-wise, I just think that, like, somebody mentioned in the comments before, I can't remember who it was, I will get it back up, but like was mentioned before, ultimately, again, Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate did miss out on Saturday, so they'll both be fresh, they'll both be fit, they won't have any fitness issues, and again, I can't really say the same for Seamus. So that's my back line. Teddy says, slow down, mate. I'm getting breathless listening to you. Sorry, mate. I'm just in natural radio mode. Harold says, this would be a tricky winger. Should have been our number one priority, but was not addressed. Fair enough. Stephen says, want a big reaction from the players after Newcastle. Me too, Stephen. Absolutely, mate. Clipsy says, what do you think of King, lad? I think it's a great deal. 6 months. Again, if he doesn't impress, he goes in the summer. If he does impress, then hopefully he signs another contract. 29 years old, adds something a little bit different to the team, a little bit of dynamism, a little bit of fight, a little bit of energy off the bench. He's quick, he breaks up players. I think it's a really good deal for the club, to be honest. El Tuto says, Vamos Everton. Cheers, Camden. Thank you very much, mate. He also says, I concur with Manuel. Godfrey needs to be in the starting 11. Eugene says, PSG thinking about keeping Keane. I'm not surprised. And Whammy says, I don't like Dean at left mid. He's a far better left back. And 3 BS is enough if we throw Godfrey in the DM Alan role. Well, potentially, look, if you were to say to me now, Godfrey plays central midfield tomorrow in the Alan-esque role and Luca Dean starts at left back, I'd snap your hand off for it, mate. I'd be absolutely made up for it. I'd have no issues with that whatsoever. No issues whatsoever. But I just think it's more likely that we're going to see Godfrey at left back and Luca Dean at left midfield. Anyway, going into that midfield then, I've gone with a 3. I've gone with a 4-2-3-1 formation. It might be a 4-3-3. It might be a 4-4-2. Look, we don't know. But I've gone with a 3. Tom Davis and Abdoulaye Doucouré sitting with James Rodriguez in the number 10-esque role, or the floating role. He likes to get about the pitch. Again, wasn't massively impressed by either Doucouré or Davis, to be honest with you. On Saturday, I thought they both struggled in that midfield. I thought they didn't keep hold of the ball very well. He gifted it away far too easily on a number of occasions. And ultimately, they allowed average Newcastle side to just kick us constantly and to get the better of us. By doing that, we need a better performance from both players, be it Doucouré, Davis, Gomez, Sigurdsson, whoever plays in that central midfield role tomorrow, and it may well be Sigurdsson and or Gomez. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever, but whoever plays in that role tomorrow needs to put in a better performance than what was put in on Saturday, because that just was not good enough whatsoever. We didn't control the game through the midfield. We were bypassed quite comfortably by Newcastle, and ultimately, you know, it's an old-fashioned saying in football, games are won and lost with a midfield, and if your midfield puts in a bad performance, the likelihood is you're going to struggle to get a result out of a game. It's about time our midfield starts to take some control. It's about time our midfield starts to get the foot on the ball and actually control games of football, be demanding, bring us forward, create chances, get it to James, it's not James Rodriguez's role to drop into the, in front of the centre-backs and pick the ball up from there. It's not Dominic Calvert-Lewin's role to drop in midfield and pick the ball up from there. That's Doucouré's role, that's Davis's role, to bring the ball to those players, bring it to James to create, bring it to, Richarlison to create chances. So I've gone with Abdoulaye Doucouré and Tom Davies in the centre of the midfield. Hopefully they can put in a better performance than they did on Saturday. And then James Rodriguez in the 10 again. Started really, really brightly on Saturday, I felt, but did sort of dim off the longer the game went on. Did sort of drop. And again, that's no fault of James'. I don't blame James for that whatsoever. I think he struggled because everybody else was struggling. There wasn't a lot of movement. There wasn't a lot of opportunities to create. And I think James Rodriguez, ultimately was struggled with that. So again, I don't blame James Rodriguez for that whatsoever, but he'll start, of course, because he's an absolutely unbelievable footballer, and he is our he is our outlet for creativity. And then the front three, I've gone with Luca Dean at left wing style. I've gone with Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, and I've actually gone with Alex Iwobi on the right. I've dropped Richarlison. Now, I mentioned this after the Newcastle game. I just don't think couple of games on the bench for Richarlison or a couple of games off will do him any harm. I think if anything, it'll do him the world of good. It'll get him out the spotlight. It'll get all this pressure off him, because ultimately, every game that Richarlison starts now for Everton, the expectation is that he is back to his usual self that we all know and love, and he's back to scoring, and he's back to creating, and he's back to getting involved, and he's back to that Richarlison who we all adore. That's the expectation now, and the reality of that situation is that's probably not going to happen in one game. We're probably not going to see one game where Richarlison just turns it on and is this fully fledged Brazilian international again. Yes, we all hope it'll happen, and yes, we're all sitting there praying, right, this might be the game that Richarlison puts in a performance that we know he's capable of now, but it's probably not going to happen. It's probably going to be a gradual thing where he maybe gets a couple of assists, then he gets a goal, and then he builds that confidence back up, because he does seem very, very void of confidence at the moment, and I just don't think a couple of games on the bench, a couple of games being used as an impact substitution would particularly harm Richarlison. I'm not saying don't involve him in the squad, I'm not saying get him out, and you might say, look, that's a controversial decision, Cam. Richarlison's going to play, and he probably will play tomorrow, and if he does play, I'm not going to be sitting here I'm not going to be sitting here absolutely livid and saying, he shouldn't have played, he needs a rest, blah, 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 blah. If he does play, I'm going to get behind him like I will be behind everybody. I will be behind all the players. I'm going to say, is right, go on, and hopefully, we can sort of see that Richarlison that we know and love. But I just don't think a rest, couple of games for out would do him a harm. I think it'd actually do him quite well. Mama says, wow, Luca Dean forward, says he. Well, it's more of a left midfield position, let's be honest, because it's a 4-2-3-1, but it'll revert to a 4-4-2, so it's more of a left midfield, like we've seen against Wolves. And then, like I said, I've gone with Luca Dean at left midfield. I just think it allows a bit of a stronger defence with Ben Godfrey in there. This is a Leeds side that are going to come forward. They are going to break. They are going to create. They come forward with a lot of attacking threats, with a lot of attacking presence. And I just think that solidity in defence will help us. And we don't then miss out on Luca Dean and his creativity and his balls into the box and ultimately what he brings to this squad, which is so vitally important. So I've gone with him on the left, Alex Iwobi on the right. Again, Alex Iwobi probably won't last the 90 minutes. He certainly needs to perform better than he did against Newcastle, because I just wasn't massively impressed with him against Newcastle. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin up front, again, needs a couple of goals, needs to build his confidence back up, and hopefully this is the game he can do that. So there is my predicted starting 11. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. Really, really interesting to hear what everybody has to think. Tom says, I honestly don't think he's unhappy at the club. He's unhappy with his own performance. That's exactly what it is, mate. He's not unhappy at the club. He's unhappy with his own performances, and that's why I think, if you hear me out now, you might think, no, I'm not hearing you out. Richarlison has to play, blah, 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 blah. Hear me out. If Carlo Ancelotti says to Richarlison tomorrow, you're going to start on the bench today, lad. Nothing to do with performances, nothing to do with me not being happy with you. Just squad rotation. You've had a couple of injuries recently. You had a concussion against Manchester United. You had a wrist injury before that. You had an injury, I believe, to his legs before that. So you've had a couple of injuries. We've got a massive game on Saturday against Manchester United. You played a large part of the game on Saturday against Newcastle. So for this one, you're going to start on the bench. And then on the 50th, 60th minute, take to Richarlison. Right, okay, go on. Make an impact. We need you to make an impact. Go on and do something. Richarlison's going to come on with a fire in his belly. He's going to come on thinking, right, okay, I mightn't have been told I've dropped, but I haven't been included in the starting 11, so I need to impress. I need to do more. Because ultimately, Richarlison has done very, very well recently in the defensive work and throwing himself in front of challenges and defending really, really well. But that's not his job. His job is going forward. His job is to create. His job is to score goals. And he'll be unhappy with the fact that he's not doing that enough. So for me, that's where I sort of sit on that one. Ian says, I hope the ref is fair. He encouraged Newcastle with his letting them stamp on James and others all game. Lee says, our best games were right at the start with everybody in the natural position. We're only missing Alan from that lineup. I'd stick with that and put Godfrey in the middle. Fair enough. I'd be happy with that, mate. I'd be happy with that. Harold says, people seem to be afraid to criticise the Ancelotti. His decision-making by the way of subbings has been poor. Fair point. Hernandez says, we also have to have DCL get on the score sheet again. Dean is the best chance on that wing. Iwobi and Dean can cross the ball well to DCL. Richarlison will not be interested in crossing. Potentially. Where he says, not that mad, Manuel. Considering how much he gets forward and creates from left back. He can play left mid, but we get far more from him at left back when he has Richie to bounce off. I agree with that, mate. I absolutely agree with that. And in a natural situation and in a natural position, I would say, yeah, he has to play at left back. I've been an advocate of players playing in their natural positions. I've spoke a number of times of how I'm not massively a fan of players playing out their unnatural position, but I just think not so much with Luca Dean, but specifically with Richarlison as well, as he struggled recently. And I just think, like I said, the game maybe on the bench and some time to sort of let him have a little bit of a rest and come on as a substitute to make an impact. I think that'd help him. Everton now says, gotta say, I was impressed with Richie first half against Leicester. So was I. Worked really, really hard, but again, he'll be frustrated with himself that he's not getting on the score sheet. And Wimmy says, got Thierry massive in there. He's a winger for sure, not a left back. Thierry Small, what a player he is. What an absolutely unbelievable talent he is. So there you go. That is my predicted starting 11. Look, it's going to be a difficult game tomorrow. Leeds are a side that do come forward. They do attack in numbers, and they've got a very, very specific way of playing. And that specific way of playing is sometimes they'll win 6-0, sometimes they'll lose 6-0. But again, they come forward, they attack with presence. They've got a lot of attacking threat. Patrick Bamford has been on fantastic form recently. Certainly this season, he's been brilliant. So, ultimately he's going to... I'm sure he'll have an impact on the game. We have to be able to defend against him, and that's part and parcel of the reason as for having Mason Allgate and Ben Godfrey in there, as I just think they're better defenders than the two natural fullbacks. You're still not losing out on Dean's creativity because he's just being pushed up a little bit, but you're gaining that defensive defensive qualities of Ben Godfrey and Mason Allgate, and for me, I just think Ben has to be in this side. Look, it's going to be a difficult game. It really, really is. One bit of confidence we can take from it is that Leeds aren't as good at home as they are away, and Everton are better away than we are at home. So hopefully that has a difference maker. We need to turn up, we need to put in a decent performance, and we need to rectify that awful results and performance against Newcastle on Saturday. I'm not even going to talk about European football. I'm not even going to talk about about Champions League or Europa League, etc. Let's just turn up, do the business, and get the 3 points tomorrow. It'll be difficult. Maybe the game plan will be one of what we've seen, against Leicester and Chelsea and Arsenal, where we sit back and we defend, and then we hit them on the counter-attack, and maybe that's a game plan that will work, but ultimately we have to go out to win this game tomorrow, and we have to go out to get the 3 points. Jared says, where Richie should be dropped. He's been poor all season. Might as well start Josh King. He's not eligible tomorrow, mate. He won't be eligible until the game against Man United at the weekend. Everton now says, gotta say I was impressed with Richie. I just read that one. Everton now says, rate the window out of 10. Interesting you should say that. We will be doing a video within the next couple of days where we go through the window and we talk about the outgoings and Josh King coming in, and we'll be rating it as well. Score prediction for this game before I finish up. I hate doing score predictions because I always jinx it, but I'm going to go with a 2-1 Everton, a strong 2-1 and getting back on track. Jared says, I'm still fuming about Saturday. Me too, mate. Peter says, James was kicked off the park. He certainly was. Wormy says, with our squad, we are doing wonders. Just thought we can still scrape 6th. I agree, mate. I absolutely agree. And Manuel says 6 out of 10. Other teams were quite passive as well, though. I believe only Man United splashed out on some money for an Atalanta player. I didn't even know that one, mate, to be honest with you. I didn't even know that one. Is that Diallo, is it? Diolo, I don't know. Wayne says, and there's only a message left of all the Deadwood is gone, except Gilfew seems to be a plot armour. And Peter says, why did nobody get in the ref's face? Should have been at least one sending off. Well, James got in the ref's face in the second half and got a yellow card straight away for it. So the ref was atrocious, absolutely atrocious the other day, but ultimately it wasn't the reason why we lost. And Ananda says, have you heard anything about Bernard? Carlo said that he's happy to welcome him back in the team and that the deal sort of fell through. So, again, we'll have to see what happens in the next couple of days. But I assume Bernard will stay at Everton, certainly with Anthony Gordon going out on loan. Anyway, that is going to do it for today's live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. The support on today has been absolutely unbelievable. Nearly 100 people watching at 1.65 people currently watching, 36 likes. Massive, massive, massive thank you. Honestly, it means so much to me. I'm just a Scouse lad who's grown up all his life supporting Everton, never known anything different, and it makes me so happy and so overwhelmed with love that I come on here and just talk about Everton, and nearly 100 people come on and interact and talk to me and get involved and enjoy what I say and agree with me, and even if you don't agree with me, you'd appreciate it, and we have that back and forth with the live comments. That's why I absolutely love doing these live streams. I set out when I started the channel my aim was I want to do more live content than regular content, because as good as regular content is and you can still get in the comments and stuff, it's really nice, I think, for people to interact live, and if you say something, someone say, hang on, you said that 10 minutes ago, I don't agree with it, and have that conversation. So a massive thank you for all of the support. Honestly, it really does mean a massive amount to me. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments. I haven't been able to get through everyone, but I do apologise for that. Hopefully I've been able to get through most of them. A massive thank you as always. If you are watching as a YouTube video afterwards, do leave your comments in the comment section down below, and I will try my best to get involved with as many of them. I'll definitely read all of them and give them a little like, as I always do, but I'll try my best to get involved with them as well. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. It only takes a second. And if you've enjoyed the video, leave it a like. Massive game tomorrow for Everton. Really big game. Big chance for us to go out and get another 3 points and bounce back after what was a disappointing result on Saturday. And hopefully we can do that. Manuel says yes. Wormy says Bernard is out of contract anyways. We'll go in the summer. I agree. Well, I don't agree. That's fact. Is he out of contract in the summer, or is he out of contract in 2022? No, he is out of contract in the summer, isn't he? Yet, so he'll go. I'm thinking of somebody else. Wormy says, take care, guys. Cheers, Wormy. Philip puts 2 blue hearts and a thumbs. Cheers, Phil. Eugene says, see about the toffees. I hope Everton will get the 3 points tomorrow night. And Wormy says, welcome to Everton, Josh. Autumn King. And he says, our bench tomorrow is going to be hilarious. It'll be interesting to see who's on there. Maybe some of the youngsters are on there, and maybe they'll get their opportunity as well. Anyway, that's going to do it for today. We will be back, of course, with the instant match reaction and the player ratings after tomorrow's game, so don't forget to look out for that one. That'll be up instantly, and like I said, over the next couple of days or so, we'll have that video where we sit down and we talk about the transfer window, and we round it up and we give it a rating out of 10, and we just talk about what we need in the summer. Massive thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed it, leave a like. Luke says cheers, Cam, see you later. Cheers, Luke, see you later. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Big game tomorrow. Gotta go out and get the 3 points. We'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.